You're welcome to Issues About Life and Religion.
Hi, I'm Sarah. Hit that subscribe button.
Every individual, one time or another, becomes sad over a situation. The sadness could be either loss of a job. This sadness, if it begins to affect the individual's normal approach to life and goes beyond 2 weeks or 14 days and begins to affect his normal activities, then the individual is described as having clinical depression at that point.
Great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, and small minds discuss people. I am your host, Kwesi Ado Sampon. You're welcome to Issues About Life and Religion.
Hi, I'm Bryson. Hey, I'm Noah. Please subscribe now. Please subscribe now.
Hello, lovely people. It's great to come your way once again today. Last week we dealt with stress. And this week we're going to deal with another mental issue situation. But you're very welcome to Issues About Religion and Life series, weekly podcast that seeks to discuss the impact of our belief system on our way of life as we try to make meaning of our existence and our environment. As Socrates has rightly said, great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, and small minds discuss people. My name is Kwesi Ado Sampon, and I'm glad to have you on my channel, the KAS channel. You're very, very welcome. I don't take it for granted that you visit my channel. Before I say anything, please make sure that you share these life-changing discussions to your friends and your enemies if you do have any. And make sure that you subscribe and you hit the notification button so that anytime we upload, you will also get the information. Thank you very much. You're welcome. Last week we dealt with how to deal with stress, and today we're also looking at another mental health issue called depression. It is strange that some people may have depression, they would not even know they do have depression, even though they are exhibiting all the symptoms. So we need to know what depression is and how can we deal with depression if we have it, or if a relation, a brother, a friend does have it. How do we deal with that? How do we help them cope with depression? We're very blessed to have, as usual, our own psychologist, counseling psychology lecturer and Department of Theology in Central University, where I also lecture. So my colleague, Reverend Dr. Aaron Ajay, is once again here. He is a constant contributor, and I'm grateful, Reverend, for making the time to come again and share with us what depression is.
Thank you very much, Doc, for having me.
So, to start with, what is depression? And what are the symptoms of depression?
Good. Generally, every individual, one time or another, becomes sad over a situation. The sadness could be either loss of a job, loss of a loved one, disappointment, failure of an examination, and many others as such. Now, this sadness, if it begins to affect the individual's normal approach to life, normal activities to life, and the sadness becomes intense and goes beyond 2 weeks or 14 days and begins to affect his normal activities, then the individual is described as having clinical depression at that point, because that sadness has exceeded a certain threshold and it begins to affect the individual's interaction with other persons and living a normal life. So instead of living a normal life and accepting situations, now this sadness is kept in the mind and kept in the person, begins to affect the person's physiological outlook in the normal activities of life.
So, Doc, you're saying that because everybody gets sad because events happen,
Yes.
stuff happen. And so if stuff, normal things happen to me, I lose a loved one, oh, some lady broke my heart, something happened, and I'm sad, I'm permitted to be sad. But if I get sad over a period of 2 weeks, then I mean, so sad that I don't do the normal things I do anymore, then I could be said to be depressed. That's what you
Then
said.
at that stage, you are psychologically, clinically depressed because it is beginning to affect your normal activities. Because everyone could be sad. Events happen, like you just said. Events that test our emotional levels. Events that are, even when one is frustrated about an activity, one could be sad. However, when that sadness exceeds 14 days and then begins to affect your normal activity, the way you interact with people, you begin to withdraw from society, and then you live a withdrawn life, you lock yourself in the room, then you are clinically depressed.
All right, let me ask you, so if within the 14 days somebody is sad and can't do much, because you really don't know why you're sad. Sometimes when you read the Psalms, you see that David says, "My soul, arise." Looks like the soul is really down.
Yes.
And so, and sometimes you might feel unhappy, but you cannot really pinpoint where the sadness is coming from. You don't know exactly what is causing it. Can we call that also depression?
There could be a stimuli to that, of which you might not have noticed that. So the moment there is an interaction with the stimuli, it precipitates that level of sadness. But probably that individual may not even know that he or she has that as a stimuli that precipitates that level of sadness. So then you, as an individual, you may have to check yourself and evaluate what might be precipitating that sadness, of which you think you don't really know, but it could be there. It could be there. So within that 14 days, like David said, my soul arise. When you realize that you are sad, you're unable to do things you want to do normally, then you need to lift your soul. That's why David says, my soul, arise. So that you'll be able to do things as you are supposed to do, as every normal being is supposed to do.
All right. Why 14 days? So if I'm sad for 13 and a half days, I cannot be, or 12 days, I cannot be said to be under clinical depression. It has to be 14 days. So if I'm sad for 10 days and I'm still not able to do anything, I'm withdrawn, I'm not eating, I'm not minding my family, I'm not talking to people, but it's 10 days.
The issue is that the 14 days, 14 days and beyond, 14 days normally is a threshold. Because within that period, yes, it is allowed that you allow the person to be sad, to cry. A couple of times it's even therapeutic for an individual to cry.
To grieve.
It is the grieving period for which you are able to evaluate yourself and then be able to accept the situation and then move on. But some live in a state of denial for long. That even beyond that stage, they still live in that state of denial. If you continue to live in that state of denial, that is where it begins to affect your normal daily activities, for which it even affects your interaction with people. And then close family relationship and close friends, it affects them. At that period, then you are depressed. Let's not forget that at this stage, it is not the only threshold, because there are certain classifications of depression, like the melancholic depression. These are people, they wake up in the morning they are depressed. And they begin to exhibit aggressiveness, high level of moodiness, not ready to interact with any other persons. But then, after the morning, the other periods of the day, they are very fine. So the melancholic classification indicates that for these people, they are depressed in the morning, but then they are able to manage the other periods of the day. So if you realize that this person's only depression comes in the morning, then you'll be able to manage and live with the person. Then we have the seasonal depression. With the seasonal depression, these are people that get depressed based on the interaction with the stimuli at certain moments of a year, and it lasts for about 2 months. So then it goes off. Till the next year, then it will come up again. And it will go on and come up again, go on and come up again in the next year, and it continues. Now, knowing some of these classifications help even people around the person to know how to manage and live with the person. These are people, you find them even in our various churches. They are with us. Sometimes they come into church in the morning and they are depressed. You see them, they are moody. But by the time church is about getting over, when you see them being very active and being interactive at the same time. So they are with us even in our churches. They are with us every day. You see them.
So you've given 2 types of depression.
Yes.
Melancholic depression,
Yes.
and then seasonal depression.
Yes.
Are there other types of depression?
Yes. There's a reactive. There's the reactive type of depression. This is more of a time precipitated by stress. So it's cognitively based, where the individual thinks of issues and he or she is unable to manage those issues and becomes very reactive to the situation because the issue is being brought about due to a stressful situation. And these are people who easily get irritated. They get irritated. For some of these persons, you may need to take them to cognitive behavioral therapy to make them rethink over their issues. Make them rethink over their issues. Whereas another one that came up in the 1980s, that is cyclothamia depression. They are not as aggressive as the other ones, like the bipolar ones or the maniac ones. They are not as aggressive as them.
Call it hypothermia.
Cyclothamia.
Cyclothermia.
Yes.
Okay.
They are not as aggressive as those on the higher levels. But then they also exhibit that level of aggressiveness, but they are also moody. They get irritated easily. They feel frustrated in life. But then theirs is a mild form. However, the more the people think over some of these issues that they think is making them sad, some of them now begin not to eat very well. And if they are not eating very well, then they begin to run shortage of sodium bicarbonate salt in the brain. So it affects their thinking. So there's no equilibrium in their thought processes. Now, as they move on, for some, by 21 days, they might have lost it entirely. And they will need a replacement of lithium, to take lithium in order for them to think normally all over again. So depression is an issue that is precipitated by even financial losses, by frustration, by even among students, among teens, by disappointment of girlfriends. Not only that, you could also have high expectations of parents not being met by this child, not passing their examination and feeling frustrated at home because of the bashing they are going to receive from their parents after all that they have invested in them. So it is important that these things are dealt with among Christians and in the church as well.
Yeah, it looks like because of lack of training for so many people, when we see people who are very moody and depressed, most often we rather sharply critique or criticize them, and we think they are unfriendly, and we won't mind them. And so we need to talk about these things so that we will be able to identify when somebody is going through these things, so that we can encourage, we can help, or we can refer.
Yes.
So it is very, very important
Yes.
what we're going through.
Doc, just to add to that, there are some that also want to live above their means in order to be accepted in the society because they think they have arrived. But then they're unable to manage that stage. So they want to live above their means for people to know that, yes, I'm still on top of the issues. When they get home in their own closet, they realize that they are overspending whatever they have. And they are sad on their own because they're unable to meet the needs and now they have to borrow to do that. And those are some of the things also we need to observe, because some people may come to church, they think that they want to be part of the big boys or part of the big girls. However, they don't have what it takes to be there, yet they want to show off. And these people go home, they are very sad, they remain in their rooms, and they become very depressed.
Wow. So, and you're trying to explain the different classifications of depression.
Yes.
You spoke about those who can be very, very violent, and you were going towards maniac depression or something.
Yeah.
Can you explain that
Yes,
part?
yes. So then from the cyclothymia, we may look at even those that they fall into the bipolar level, where they even want to do things that was what I was talking about. Even in the church, they want to live above their expectations. They want to do things to attract attention. They are doing things to hurt those people they think might have hurt them, that led them to that state of depressiveness. So they act in such a way to do things to think that, okay, if it is you that they think that you are the one that did something that hurts them, that brought about their level of depression, then they will act in such a way, exposing their nudity to the whole world because they have the view that you are the one that hurts them. So in doing that, they know that because you occupy a privileged and a prestigious situation in society, then you may be hurt by exposing their nudity.
But if you are exposing yourself, why would I be hurt?
Because you may be the leader or the closest relationship he or she may have. Yes. But you see, some of them also act contrary to the psychomotor aggression. Now, some of them will either eat more or eat less when they are depressed. So they might either gain 15 pounds weight in a week or lose 15 pounds weight in a week due to their situation. So some become depressed and they begin to lose weight. Others are depressed, they begin to put on weight.
That's serious. So this depression thing is very, very serious.
Yes.
So what are the other symptoms that we can recognize when somebody is behaving in a particular way? We know that this one is depression.
Yes. Doc, let's look at a couple of causative factors, then we can look at the symptoms as well.
Right.
Now, when you have teenagers or we have young people whose parents get divorced, when they don't understand the reason for their parents parting ways, they become very depressed. Very, very depressed because they don't understand why mother should go or father should go.
Sometimes they even think that it's because it's their fault.
Yes.
That their parents got divorced.
Yes. Which may not even be their fault at all. They may not be in the equation at all. When their financial needs are not being met by their parents, or their parents are going through financial difficulties, the children become depressed. Not just the parents, but the children become very depressed because they look at their parents and their parents are unable to meet their financial obligations. And then they look at their parents, I wish my father could do this, I wish my mother could do that. But they don't have the ability to do so. And the children become depressed, very depressed. These teenagers become very depressed. Unfortunately, because we don't take mental health too seriously in this country, so we don't even recognize them. We don't even take them seriously. But these children become depressed. When you put so much pressure on them to pass examination as if it is only by passing examination that will make them succeed in life. So much pressure on them, so much academic pressure, it makes them go through a whole lot of depression. Now, even parents, divorcing also makes parents to be divorced, to be depressed. Because some of them, the divorce hits them hard. They never expected it to happen. they become very depressed. You see. Frustration may lead to depression. Frustration. When unexpected needs are not met, high needs that you expected to meet are not met. People get into marriage and they are shocked because they expected so much. And they realize that, oh, their expectations are not met, so they get depressed. Always sad and moody. Even when they come to church, they're always sad and moody. And they realize that, okay, it's not easy to work out of this marriage, but then I cannot do anything. They feel very depressed now. Some of the symptoms we should look out for are when the person begins to live a withdrawn life. Now withdraws from normal society in which he or she used to associate easily. You need to watch out for that. The person becomes very quiet, moodiness, easily gets irritated, will not want to associate with anyone, will not even want to talk to anyone, lock themselves in the room from morning till evening. They will not want to talk to anyone at all, not to listen to any piece of advice from anyone. They will not want to associate themselves with any church activity. Some people become aggressive for no reason. They easily get irritated. You need to look out for some of these symptoms. And some of them will lead to suicide because they begin to leave suicidal notes. I wish I could die. It is better to die than to live. That is where they are living a life of hopelessness and helplessness. They think everything has come to an end looking at their situation. So it's so hopeless that they begin to leave suicidal notes and suicidal cues for which we don't really consider them. Some may tell you, oh, I think, well, it is better to exit this world than to live in this world. If you move to the next room, you have no troubles. You have no pain. You don't get sick. You don't pay utilities. You don't pay rent. Nothing happens to you. So it is better to move to the next room than to stay in this place where you have so much trouble. So we need to be watch out for some of these.
Hi, I'm Sarah. Hit that subscribe button.
Hi, I'm Bryson. Hey, I'm Noah. Please subscribe now. Please subscribe now.